to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tesner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Dream 100 Show. Today's topic is all about segmentation and how making small tweaks to how you segment your audience, segment your contacts, your leads, your customers can make all the difference in the world. So 2.5 weeks ago, I had the privilege of doing an on-site consulting engagement for one of the top 25 largest credit unions in the United States. I've always enjoyed working with credit unions. I've been in and out of that industry for probably, 15 years. But what I wanted to do when I started this engagement, and it was about how they could potentially leverage the concepts and the frameworks of the Dream 100. By nature, credit unions have thousands, if not hundreds and hundreds of thousands of members. So with the credit union, you're considered a member owner. You're a part of the credit union. It's member owned rather than like a bank where you're a customer. So credit unions, they've got a much better community aspect to them. They tend to have better rates. There's usually just a lot of really great things about them. But what I wanted to do before we even started talking about the Dream 100 is I had the different people in the room, and they ranged from some of the people in the C-suite to the marketing director, the CMO, as well as a bunch of people on the marketing team and a bunch of data people. So as you know, I love data, and credit unions tend to have a lot of really great people when it comes to data analytics and varying job titles that all end up relating to something when it comes to data. And it's interesting because the people in the room that were in the weeds on the marketing had one perspective, the data people had another perspective. So the first question that I posed to everyone in the room was, tell me about your current members. Now, with any kind of marketing project or Dream 100 initiative, I need to make sure that we are crystal clear on the demographics of our members, the demographics of the prospective members, so that we can start to analyze this and figure out a plan of attack. And it was interesting because everyone in the room had varying perspectives, which I like. But what I didn't realize was when we started to build this member persona, and then we built another one and another one. And I think we ended up having, there were 4, possibly 5. And I expected that with the credit union. You're going to have some young members, like 15 years old, that are just having like a checking account and maybe a debit card and kind of building some things and learning, to people that are coming in for financial service advice, and that could be 75 years old, and then everywhere in between. So we started to nail down these different personas. And then I asked a question that started to take things on a little bit of a roller coaster. And I asked everyone in the room, so tell me about your segmentation. And it was interesting because the marketing team went first, and they said, well, we have our email list and we have it segmented into 4 different segments. So we have people that are prospective members, current members, they had a segment for lost members, and then I believe there was one more, I think, for the parents and the kids, like the teens that had those particular accounts. And then I said, okay, great. So we've got those down. Do you have any segments set up on social media? Do you tell me more about the segments? And there was a little bit here and there, but it wasn't anything crazy. Then I asked the data team, tell me about all the different segments that if you were to look at the data, how many different segments could you give me? How many baskets of members or prospective members or lost members? How many of those baskets would exist? How granular can we get? But also, how many people would make up those baskets? So I'm not going to tell you the exact number of members that this credit union has, because I keep everything confidential unless I'm able to openly disclose things. So I'm just going to pick a random number and say they have 300,000 members. The marketing team, when they're sending emails, they have some text message marketing that they're doing. And we continued to go down those rabbit holes of what does the segmentation look like there. And we kept hitting roadblocks of, well, we can't find this segment, or we don't know how to do this segment. And we very rapidly realized that the data team was kind of in their own little bucket where they were giving data to certain people, but they weren't openly collaborating with marketing. And it wasn't like by design. I think it was just by default of how this organization was set up. But we realized that the data team could end up giving us well over 1,000 different segments. So we could go granular to the point of, let's look at all of our current members, and then let's look at all of our current members, and then let's go more granular. So we could get to the place where these thousands of segments had a few thousand people in them. So current member have been with the credit union for over 10 years, has a checking account, a savings account, but they don't have any other products. And then that could continue to spin off. So we had one of the segments of people that have been with the credit union for 10 plus years, and then we built a whole bunch of other segments below that. Certain products they had, they only do mobile banking versus coming in person. They have referred X amount of people, they only visit this location, and the segments continued to get kind of more and more spread out, but we kept finding that each of these segments still had thousands of members. Thousands of members. So we weren't getting to the place where it was going down to one segment was for 5 members, for example. But we realized that, we could have several hundred segments that had 5, 10, 15,000 members in those segments. So why do you think that I wanted to start off learning a little bit more about their members? So tell me about their buying habits and where are they from? So I got all of that persona data. They spent a couple of hours bringing me up to speed on everything that I couldn't find out beforehand. So all the confidential stuff that they really only wanted to discuss in person. And then I rapidly switched to segments. So tell me more about what does the segment start to then have to relate to the Dream 100? And there were 2 completely different things that we then spent the remaining 2 days on. So the first day we ended up spending, after we found out that we were not marketing to segments, was that we took their email tool, which was a tool called Pardot, which is, I believe it's owned by Salesforce. And we started to build out those segments into this tool, put people that were already opted in to receive emails into these segments with certain tags. We did the same thing with the text message marketing that we were doing so that we could put them into different segments. The text messaging tool, I think, only had 3 segments. When we were done with it, it had about 115 segments. Now, if we needed to broadcast the entire text list or the entire mailing list, we could do that. But then we had all these segments. And what they very rapidly realized was that we needed to be a lot more specific, marketing kind of one-to-one, rather than just sending one email out to 50,000 people, for example, if they had a particular promotion. So why would you send an email to 50,000 people talking about a promotion for auto loans, and that segment already included tens of thousands of people that already had an auto loan recently with the credit union? Or why would you send an email to a segment talking about why you should have a savings account when half the people or more that you already had on that segment already have that? So they couldn't find out why the email open rates were starting to dwindle. They weren't getting the conversions that they used to have. And the answer very rapidly became clear as day. And it was they were not marketing based on segments. So that was kind of the second half of day 1 and then into day 2. So now you've got all these different segments. So before I go to day 3 and tell you what we accomplished with the Dream 100, I want to give you an action step, and that is take a look at all of your data. And this is more just on the current marketing that you're doing, the ongoing marketing. Do you have all of your prospects lumped into one segment? How do you have them tagged so that you can be a lot more specific, a lot more one-to-one in your marketing? With the continued explosion of AI, I showed them in 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that, but let's say 30 minutes, how we could rapidly take one of their promotions and then have that email rewritten to better appeal to the different segments that we just created without them having to do a lot of other work. They were already using the same email template, like the formatting was all similar, where we literally could take that same email and say, we have this segment, these particular promotions, can you tweak my copy? Here's the copy, tweak it to better fit this audience. Same thing for the text messages. We did the same thing with Facebook. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually build inside of Facebook content that shows to certain segments of your Facebook audience. Very specific segments, so that you're doing one-to-one marketing, you're marketing in the moment to the right people at the right time. We took that even a step further and we started to look at how they could have their website be responsive. So when they sent an email to a particular segment, that the website would know who that person was and actually change. Not the entire website, but certain pages could change based on that individual person. Insane stuff that has been around for quite a while, but the takeaway, the action step for you is to look at how many segments do you have? How well tagged do you have things so that if you want to do very hyper-specific marketing, hyper-specific, like we have some prospects that didn't close in the last 30 days, we know when they came in, the lead source they came in, we're going to run a very specific campaign for them. We know certain clients that we've had for X amount of time that are worth X amount of dollars, so we're going to run a very specific campaign. We can do these through all of our different forms of marketing, and I can rapidly pull these lists inside of our customer relationship management software. So you need to be able to rapidly pull these rather than having to go and work and wait weeks and weeks from a data team. You need to work with that team so that anytime you want to pull a new segment, run a specific promotion, you can do that. I had the exact same experience when I was doing consulting for a company that sells to jewelry stores. They have a product that's sold to tens of thousands of jewelry stores, charms. And their email list had limited to no segmentation. So they might have a campaign that they're running to people on the West Coast, and they would be sending an email and or a text message or a campaign to everyone on the email list and wondering why people were unsubscribing and complaining. The minute we started to put segmentation in place, everything started to change. Now, the second thing that we did on day 3, so kind of later day 2 and then into day 3, was we then looked at these segments and said, great. Of these segments, we asked the data people, who are our most profitable members? And they very quickly started to see some trends come true. And they realized that you had to think of this not in a like black and white way. So what I mean by that is if I just look at, great, well, these teenagers right now, we make zero money on them. We actually lose money. Whereas all of the older people that have been with us for 30 years, we're making more money. Like you can't look at it that black and white because you have to realize, well, if they come in at 15 and they stay for 60 plus years, they're going to be widely profitable. But they very rapidly started to figure out that the most profitable members, and they don't make a prop, like the most lucrative, we'll use the word lucrative. The most lucrative members were actually people that ended up coming into a location. So they didn't just do online or mobile. They did some of that, but they physically came in to the credit union once a week. And they ended up engaging the financial planning team. So they ended up investing some of their assets with the credit union. So when you add in investing some assets, the credit union is making a percentage on that, the investable assets. But what they found was they did an amazing job at the actual credit union from a marketing perspective of all the new promotions and deals and things like that. But the only way that you were really seeing them and experiencing them was if you went into an actual branch. So these people that were coming in every week would see the new promotions. The tellers would mention, hey, did you know about XYZ? Whereas if you're going online, you're doing online banking through the mobile app, you might see it on the website quickly, but you very rapidly move on to something else. So in going through the segmentation process, talking through what do their members look like, and then breaking that down into who's actually the most lucrative, we started to build their Dream 100 relationships around showcasing that they can handle high net worth individuals. And they started to be able to showcase, well, yeah, we actually have some members that have millions and millions of dollars invested with us. And they also have referred a ton of people, and they do all of their banking with us rather than with 5, 6, 7, 8 different financials. So we left and then built this persona of looking for people that were typically entrepreneurs. So then that we went deeper and deeper and deeper to, okay, great. How do we get that list even tighter rather than just saying, oh, everyone in XYZ area that's a millionaire? We started to realize, well, they're typically entrepreneurs. They have a net worth of between 3 million and 25 million. Some were outliers, but we kept getting kind of more and more specific, and we were able to build a list of about 200 people in their particular city that they wanted to target, that we could start to then build a campaign around. So my objective for you today, my push, my feedback is look at your email list, look at your CRM, look at all the different places that you have data and see how well segmented you are. And then I want you to go to a whole nother level, a whole nother degree. What other layers can you add so that if you want to send an email, let's say your list is only 100 people, can you send that email in 10 different ways because you have different segments where that response rate is going to be a little bit better? So look at how you can improve your segmentation and then take that to the next level and just start to test it out with email, with text, with your website, with your social media profiles. The better you are able to connect with somebody one-to-one, build that relationship, build that trust, build that rapport, you'll continue to make more and more money. Get out there, segment your audience, put them into the right buckets. You will start to make more money. Have a great rest of your day. It's Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.